Solaris is a 1961 science fiction novel by Stanisław Lem. Lem was born in Poland in 1921. After the Soviet invasion of 1939, he was denied a higher education because he was too bourgeois. Then after the Nazis moved in because of his Jewish background. After the war, he worked in scientific research and published his first science fiction novel in 1946. During the 1970s, he may have been the world's most widely read science fiction author. He died in 2006 at the age of 84. Solaris is his best-known novel. It's set on a space station positioned above a distant planet called Solaris, discovered about 100 years before the novel begins, and which has inspired mountains of scientific research devoted to the question of whether it could be a living and perhaps even a conscious being. Its oceans are plasmic and behave in ways that could count as evidence of sentience. It modifies its own orbit in ways that can't yet be explained. The chief character from whose first-person perspective the story is told is an academic called Dr. Chris Kelvin. He arrives on the space station in response to a vaguely worded emergency. There are three other characters, two fellow researchers called Snout, Snow in the English translation, and Sartorius, and Dr. Kelvin's deceased partner, Hooray, Rhea in the English, who took her own life on Earth a decade ago, but who was brought back from the dead by Solaris for reasons unknown. And that's the emergency on board the spaceship. All the astronauts have been receiving visitors, people known to them, but who can't possibly be there. And if you try to kill them, as Dr. Kelvin does Hooray stroke Rhea, they come back, apparently unharmed. The eventual theory is that Solaris is creating the visitors from the astronauts' deepest memories. It's only a theory, but even if it's true, how and why? No one knows. Solaris is a meditation on how utterly incomprehensible a superior alien intelligence might be. As Dr. Kelvin puts it, we could find ourselves in the position of microbes trying to understand an elephant. And just as elephants probably have no conception of microbes, so an alien intelligence might not even notice us. What apparently attracts the attention of Solaris in the novel is that before Kelvin's arrival, some of the onboard scientists have rashly tried bombarding it with X-rays. But the novel's also a profound meditation on personal identity. Hooray stroke Rhea isn't just a facsimile of the original. In just about every sense that matters, she really is who Kelvin takes her for and who she believes herself to be. And yet she's clearly also a creation of Solaris. How can she be both? The novel doesn't attempt to answer that question, but it does succeed in convincing the reader that it's not necessarily an either-or. The novel spawned three films, a 1968 Soviet TV adaptation, which has remained obscure, then a 1972 film directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, and finally a 2002 movie directed by Steven Soderbergh. Most people prefer the Tarkovsky. My own strong preference is for the Soderbergh, but I accept I'm in a minority. In any case, Lem disliked all the versions. In the novel, the emphasis is firmly on the planet and the philosophical questions it raises. Two chapters have long sections on the history of scientific research in the field. All the astronauts, including Kelvin, are qualified Solarists. But Lem felt the movies focused overly on the relationship between Kelvin and Hooray. As far as I'm aware, he said, the book was not about the erotic problems of people in space. That is why it was called Solaris, of not love in outer space. Was he right? To say that the films redirect the focus, yes, he was. To blame them? I think no. There's a version of Christian theology called the Via Negativa that says that once we realize we can't talk about a transcendent reality that's beyond our comprehension, all we're left with is our highest values. The films do a good job of bringing those values, one of which is undeniably love, to bear on the issue of the planet's inscrutability. And I think that's the best that can really be expected. You might differ.